The gymnasium smelled like fresh paint and cut flowers. Simone Brooks bent down to adjust the red tablecloth one more time, smoothing out a wrinkle that probably nobody else would notice. Perfectionism had become her armor over the years. If she kept busy, kept moving, kept fixing things, maybe the hollow ache in her chest would quiet down just a little. "Miss Brooks, the fathers are starting to arrive," called Principal Henderson from the doorway. Simone straightened up, brushing her hands on her emerald green dress. She'd worn this color deliberately, a bright shade that usually made her feel confident and alive. Today she needed that boost. Father's Day events were always hard. They reminded her of what she'd lost 8 years ago, of the baby girl she'd held for only 3 hours before signing papers that ripped her heart in two. The first few fathers trickled in with their children. Mr. Patterson with his twin boys. Mr. Johnson with his daughter Sophie. Simone smiled and directed them to their seats, checked names off her list, made sure everyone got a welcome packet. The routine helped. Stay busy. Stay focused. Don't think about brown eyes that might be 8 years old now, about first days of school you missed, about bedtime stories you never got to read. Then the door opened again. Time stopped. A man walked in, tall and commanding, in a navy blue suit that probably cost more than her car. His dark skin gleamed under the gymnasium lights, his stride confident and purposeful. But it wasn't his expensive clothes or his obvious wealth that made Simone's breath catch in her throat. It was his face. Those high cheekbones. That strong jaw. Those dark, intelligent eyes that used to look at her like she was the only woman in the world. Terrell Hayes. The man she'd loved with every fiber of her being. The man whose baby she'd carried. The man who'd supposedly moved on and forgotten her, or so his family had said. But that wasn't the worst part. Holding his hand was a little girl, maybe 7 or 8 years old, wearing a bright red dress with white flowers. She had neat cornrows decorated with colorful beads, and when she looked up at her father with pure adoration, Simone saw her own face reflected back. The same wide brown eyes. The same dimple in the left cheek. The same way of tilting her head when she was thinking. Her daughter. The child she'd been told would have a better life without her. The baby she'd kissed goodbye in a hospital room, believing she'd never see her again. Here. Right here in this elementary school gymnasium, holding the hand of the only man Simone had ever truly loved. Simone's clipboard clattered to the floor. Papers scattered everywhere, but she couldn't move to pick them up. Her legs felt like water. Her heart hammered so hard she thought everyone in the room must hear it. The air seemed too thick to breathe. Terrell's eyes met hers across the room. Recognition flashed across his face, followed by shock, then something that looked like anguish. He stopped walking. His hand tightened on his daughter's fingers. For a long moment, they just stared at each other, 8 years of pain and questions hanging between them like a heavy curtain. "Daddy, are you okay?" The little girl tugged on his hand, her voice sweet and concerned. The sound broke the spell. Simone bent down, hands shaking as she gathered her papers. She couldn't do this. She couldn't stand here and look at the child she'd given up, the child who was supposed to have been adopted by strangers, now clearly being raised by Terrell himself. Why hadn't anyone told her? Why had his family lied? "Let me help you with that." Terrell's voice washed over her, deeper than she remembered but unmistakably his. "No, I've got it," Simone stammered, but her hands were shaking too badly. Papers kept slipping from her grasp. Terrell knelt beside her anyway, his expensive suit pants touching the gym floor as he collected scattered name tags and programs. Their fingers brushed as they both reached for the same paper, and the touch sent electricity shooting up Simone's arm. She pulled back like she'd been burned. "Simone." He said her name quietly, like a prayer or an apology or maybe both. "I didn't know you'd be here. I didn't know you were back in town." "I never left," she whispered, finally meeting his eyes. Up close, she could see the fine lines around them, the slight gray at his temples. He'd aged, but he was still beautiful. Still the man who'd promised her forever under a starlit sky 9 years ago. "Daddy, is this lady okay?" She looked sad. The little girl stepped closer, and Simone's heart cracked wide open. She looked at her daughter, really looked at her, and felt tears burning behind her eyes. This child was healthy, happy, wearing expensive clothes and shoes. Her hair was done with obvious care and love. She had a confidence in her posture that spoke of a child who knew she was cherished. "I'm fine, sweetie," Simone managed, her voice barely steady. "Just drop some papers." "Silly me. I drop things all the time," the girl said brightly. "Daddy says it happens to everyone. I'm Brielle, by the way. Brielle Marie Hayes. That's my full name. Brielle." Her daughter's name was Brielle. It was beautiful. "That's a lovely name," Simone said softly. I'm Miss Brooks. I planned this event for you and your daddy. You did. Brielle's face lit up. Thank you. I love Father's Day. My daddy is the best daddy in the whole world. The simple declaration almost broke Simone. She looked up at Terrell, saw pain and confusion and something else in his eyes. Love maybe. Or memory. Or regret. We need to talk, Terrell said quietly. After this event. Please. Simone nodded, not trusting her voice. She stood up, clutching her clipboard like a lifeline, and gestured toward their assigned table. You're at table 7. Right up front. There are coloring activities for Brielle while we wait for everyone to arrive. Thank you, Terrell said, and the way he looked at her made it clear he wasn't just thanking her for the seating assignment. As they walked away, Brielle chattering happily about something that happened at school that week, Simone pressed a hand to her stomach and tried to breathe. Her daughter was alive, healthy, and happy. Terrell was here, single apparently, raising their child alone. Everything she believed for 8 years had been a lie. The question was why? And what had really happened after she'd signed those papers in the hospital? Too heartbroken to think straight, too young to fight back against his powerful family. Simone watched them settle at their table, watched Brielle lean against her father's arm with complete trust, watched Terrell smooth down his daughter's dress with gentle hands. Whatever had happened, one thing was clear. He loved Brielle fiercely. He'd been there for her in all the ways Simone couldn't be. The knowledge should have brought comfort. Instead, it just made the ache in her chest grow deeper. She'd missed everything. First steps. First words. First days of school. Scraped knees and bedtime stories and birthday cakes. 8 years of her daughter's life, gone forever. But she was here now. Brielle was here. And maybe, just maybe, it wasn't too late to be part of her daughter's story. Even if every minute of standing in this room watching Terrell parent the child they'd made together, felt like her heart was being torn into smaller and smaller pieces. Have you ever wondered what it would feel like to see your child for the first time in 8 years, not knowing if they even remember you existed? If this story has touched your heart in any way, please take a moment to subscribe and share your thoughts in the comments below. Your support helps me continue creating stories about love, hope, and second chances. 9 years ago, Simone had been a completely different person. At 20, she'd been working 2 jobs while taking classes at the community college, determined to build a better life than the one she'd grown up with. Her mother had raised her alone after her father left, and Simone had watched her struggle every single day. She'd promised herself she'd do better, be smarter, work harder. The community center where she taught after-school art classes to kids had been her sanctuary. It wasn't much, just a converted warehouse with peeling paint and second-hand supplies, but the children loved it. Every Tuesday and Thursday afternoon, Simone showed up with whatever art material she could afford and let the kids create whatever their hearts desired. That was where she met Terrell. He'd walked in one Thursday afternoon in October, looking completely out of place in his designer jeans and leather jacket. While the other volunteers dressed casually, he looked like money. But when he smiled at the kids and sat down to help a struggling third grader with her drawing, Simone saw something real beneath the expensive clothes. "You're good with them," she'd said during the break when they were both washing paint off their hands in the small bathroom. "I like kids," he'd replied simply. "They're honest. They say what they mean." "Unlike adults?" Simone had teased, drying her hands on a paper towel. "Unlike the adults I usually deal with," he'd admitted. Then he'd looked at her, really looked at her, and asked, "Would you like to get coffee after this?" Simone had hesitated. She didn't date much. Didn't have time. Between work, school, and the community center, her schedule was packed tight. But something about the way Terrell looked at her made her want to say yes. "Okay," she'd agreed. "But just coffee. I have homework." That first coffee had turned into dinner. Dinner had turned into a walk through the park. The walk had turned into hours of conversation that stretched until midnight. By the time Terrell drove her home to her tiny apartment, Simone felt like she'd known him her whole life. Over the next few months, they fell in love the way young people do, completely and without reservation. Terrell told her about his family, wealthy business people who wanted him to take over the family company. He told her about the pressure, the expectations, the feeling that his life wasn't really his own. Simone told him about her mother's sacrifices, her dreams of becoming an artist, her determination to make something of herself without anyone's help. She told him about the scholarship she was trying to win, about the small event planning business she wanted to start someday. "You're the first person who sees me as just me," Terrell had said one night, lying beside her in her cramped apartment, his finger tracing patterns on her arm. "Not as the Hayes heir. Not as a business opportunity. Just Terrell. That's all I want you to be, Simone had whispered back. Just yourself. They spent every free moment together. Terrell showed up at her community center classes. Simone met him after his business meetings. They studied together in coffee shops, went to free concerts in the park, cooked simple meals in her kitchen. It was nothing fancy, but it was theirs. I love you, Terrell had said one spring evening 6 months after they'd met. They were sitting on her apartment's fire escape, watching the sunset paint the sky pink and orange. I know it's fast, but I've never been more sure of anything. I love you too, Simone had replied, and she'd meant it with everything in her. They talked about the future. Terrell wanted to tell his family about her, wanted them to meet. Simone was nervous. She knew about his world, about the wealth and privilege she'd never had. But Terrell insisted it wouldn't matter. They'll love you, he'd promised. How could they not? They made plans. After Simone finished her associate degree, they'd get married. Something simple, just the two of them if his family made things difficult. Terrell would work at the family company but on his own terms. Simone would start her event planning business. They'd build a life together, one based on love and mutual respect, not money or status. Those plans had felt solid, real. Simone had let herself believe in them, believe in him, believe that love could be enough. She'd been so young, so hopeful, so completely unprepared for what was coming. The first hint of trouble came when Terrell tried to introduce her to his family. His parents kept canceling dinners, claiming scheduling conflicts. His older brother refused to meet her at all. When Simone asked about it, Terrell just said they needed time to adjust, that they'd come around eventually. But they never got that chance. Because 3 weeks before Terrell was supposed to bring Simone to a family gathering, everything changed. She'd been feeling sick for days, throwing up every morning, exhausted by noon. At first she'd thought it was the flu. But when her period didn't come, a cold knot of fear had formed in her stomach. The pregnancy test had been positive. Simone had stared at those 2 pink lines, her hands shaking, her mind racing. She was 21 years old. Still in school. Working 2 jobs. Living in a tiny apartment with barely enough money to feed herself. How could she possibly have a baby? But underneath the fear was something else. A tiny flutter of joy. This was Terrell's child. Their child. Made from love. Maybe it wasn't planned, but it was theirs. She'd decided to tell him that weekend. They had plans to meet at their favorite coffee shop, the one where they'd had their first date. Simone had practiced what she'd say, how she'd break the news. She knew Terrell would be surprised, maybe worried, but she believed he'd support her. They'd figure it out together. But Terrell never showed up to that coffee shop. Instead, 2 people in expensive suits found her there. A man and a woman, both carrying briefcases, both looking at Simone like she was something dirty they'd stepped in on the sidewalk. Miss Brooks, the woman had said, sitting down uninvited across from Simone. We represent the Hayes family. We need to discuss your relationship with Terrell. Simone's heart had started pounding. What are you talking about? Where's Terrell? Terrell is where he needs to be, the man had said coldly. Preparing for his engagement announcement. His marriage to Camila Rodriguez has been arranged for years. Did he not mention that? The words had hit Simone like physical blows. Engagement. Marriage. Arrange. None of it made sense. Terrell had never mentioned anyone named Camila. He'd said he loved Simone. He'd talked about their future. You're lying, Simone had whispered. We're not, the woman had replied, pulling out photographs. Pictures of Terrell with a beautiful woman in a designer dress. Pictures of them at fancy restaurants, at charity galas, at family gatherings. The photos looked intimate, comfortable, like 2 people who'd known each other for years. These could be fake, Simone had said, but her voice had lacked conviction. They're not, the man had said. Terrell has obligations. Family responsibilities. A life path that was set before he ever met you. This dalliance has been an unfortunate distraction. We're here to make sure it ends cleanly. They'd pushed a folder across the table. Inside were legal documents and a check. A very large check. $50,000, the woman had said. In exchange, you leave town, cease all contact with Terrell, and never mention your relationship with him to anyone. It's more than generous considering the circumstances. I don't want your money, Simone had said, pushing the folder back. I want to talk to Terrell. That's not possible, the man had replied. Terrell has made his choice. He's moving forward with his real life. We're simply here to ensure the transition is smooth for everyone involved. Simone had felt tears burning her eyes. Did he send you? The woman had smiled, cold and sharp. What do you think? Looking back now, Simone realized how perfectly they'd played her. They'd preyed on every insecurity she had. The class difference. The fear that she wasn't good enough for Terrell's world. The sneaking suspicion that their love had been too good to be true. She'd wanted to fight. But she'd also been 21, pregnant, scared, and sitting across from people who clearly had more power and money than she could imagine. When they'd told her Terrell didn't want to see her, that he'd asked them to handle things, a part of her had believed it. Maybe she hadn't been enough. Maybe the baby was the final straw. Maybe Terrell had realized what a mistake he'd made, falling for a girl with nothing to offer him but love. So she'd left that coffee shop without signing anything, but with her heart in pieces. She'd gone home, crawled into bed, and cried until she had no tears left. And she'd never tried to contact Terrell again. The morning sickness got worse. Simone spent 3 weeks barely able to keep food down, struggling to make it to work and classes. Her mother noticed something was wrong, but Simone couldn't bring herself to say the words out loud. Pregnant. Alone. 21 years old with a future that suddenly looked impossibly complicated. She'd finally told her mother on a Sunday afternoon in her mother's small living room. Her mom had just stared at her for a long moment, then pulled Simone into her arms and held her while she cried. "Does the father know?" her mother had asked gently. "He doesn't want anything to do with me," Simone had whispered. "His family, they made it clear I wasn't good enough." Her mother had pulled back, looked Simone in the eyes. "Baby, you are good enough. Don't ever let anyone tell you different. But raising a child alone. I did it and it's hard. Harder than anything you can imagine. You need to really think about what you want." What did Simone want? She wanted Terrell. She wanted the future they'd planned together. She wanted to go back in time and change everything. But none of that was possible. She tried to continue with school and work, but the pregnancy was difficult. She was sick constantly, exhausted all the time. Her grades started slipping. She lost one of her jobs because she couldn't reliably make it to shifts. The money problems that had always been tight became desperate. That was when Terrell's family found her again. This time they came to her apartment. The same 2 lawyers but with a different offer. They'd learned about the pregnancy somehow and they had a new proposal. "Give us the baby," the woman had said, like she was discussing a business transaction. "The Hayes family will ensure the child has the best of everything. Private schools. The finest health care. A real future. What can you offer? You're dropping out of school. You've lost your job. You're barely scraping by." "I'm not dropping out," Simone had protested, even though she'd missed 3 weeks of classes and knew she was failing. "You will," the man had said matter-of-factly. "Single mothers without support systems rarely finish their education. You'll end up working minimum-wage jobs, struggling every day just like your mother did. Is that what you want for your child? A life of poverty and hardship?" "It's better than growing up without a mother," Simone had said, but her voice had wavered. "Is it?" the woman had asked. "Growing up poor, knowing your mother chose poverty over giving you a better life? Or growing up with every advantage, loved and cared for by people who can give you the world?" They'd shown her pictures of the Hayes estate. The vast rooms. The private playground. The pool. The library. Everything a child could want. They talked about the schools, the tutors, the opportunities. They'd painted a picture of a life Simone could never provide. "And if I say no?" Simone had asked. "Then we'll see you in court," the man had replied. "The Hayes family has resources you can't begin to imagine. We'll prove you're unfit. No job. No education. No support system. We'll take the child anyway and you'll have nothing. Not even the satisfaction of knowing you did what was best." Simone had felt trapped. Cornered. Terrified. Was she being selfish, wanting to keep her baby when she couldn't provide the kind of life the Hayes family could? Was her love enough when she couldn't afford proper health care, good schools, a safe neighborhood? Her mother had tried to talk her out of signing anything. "We'll figure it out together," she'd said. "I'll help you. We'll manage." But Simone had seen her mother's worn hands, her tired eyes, the bills piled on her kitchen table. Her mother was barely managing as it was. How could Simone ask her to take on more? The lawyers had given her a week to think about it. 1 week to decide her baby's future. Those 7 days had been the longest of Simone's life. She'd spent hours sitting in her apartment, hands on her growing belly, talking to the baby she could barely afford to feed. "I love you," she'd whispered. "I love you so much. I just want you to be happy. I want you to have everything I never did." In the end, that was what made her decision. Well, not the kind of love that keeps what it cherishes close, but the kind that lets go if it means the beloved will be safe, happy, cared for. She'd convinced herself she was being selfless. Brave. Putting her child's needs above her own desires. Looking back now, standing in this gymnasium watching Brielle laugh at something Terrell said, Simone realized how young and stupid she'd been. How easily manipulated. But at the time she'd truly believed she was doing the right thing. The pregnancy had progressed. The lawyers had handled everything. They'd paid for her medical care at a private clinic, set her up in a better apartment temporarily, made sure she ate well and stayed healthy. They'd been kind in their cold, professional way. She'd started to believe maybe this was the best choice after all. The birth had been long and difficult. 20 hours of labor before Brielle finally arrived, tiny and perfect and absolutely beautiful. The nurses had cleaned her up and placed her in Simone's arms, and for 3 perfect hours, Simone had held her daughter. She'd counted fingers and toes. She'd memorized every detail of Brielle's face. She'd whispered all the things she wanted to say, all the love she wanted to give, cramming a lifetime of motherhood into 180 minutes. "I love you," she told Brielle over and over. "You're so loved. You're going to have a wonderful life. I'm sorry I can't be part of it. I'm so sorry." Then the lawyers had come with the papers. The adoption documents. Simone had signed them with shaking hands, tears streaming down her face. She'd kissed Brielle's forehead one last time, breathed in her baby smell, and then handed her daughter to a nurse who promised the adoptive family was waiting. They'd told her it was a closed adoption. No contact. No information. Clean break. Better for everyone. Simone had asked to at least know if it was a good family, if they'd love Brielle the way she deserved. The lawyers had assured her the child would want for nothing. They'd never mentioned that Terrell was the one taking the baby. That Brielle would be raised by her own father. That Simone had given away her daughter to the man she'd loved, the man whose family had lied to keep them apart. After signing the papers, Simone had been discharged from the hospital with a large check, a packet of postpartum care instructions, and a hole in her heart that nothing could fill. She'd gone home to her apartment and collapsed. For days she barely moved, barely ate. Her breasts ached with milk her baby would never drink. Her arms felt empty. Her whole body screamed for the child that was gone. Her mother had stayed with her, forced her to eat, made sure she recovered physically. But emotionally, Simone had been shattered. She dropped out of school officially. Lost her apartment when she couldn't pay rent. Moved back in with her mother and spent months in a depression so deep she sometimes wondered if she'd ever climb out. But slowly, with her mother's help, she'd started to heal. Or at least to function. She'd gotten a new job, started saving money again, enrolled in online classes. 2 years after Brielle's birth, she'd finally finished her associate degree. 3 years after, she'd started her event planning business from her mother's living room. The business had grown slowly but steadily. Simone had thrown herself into work, using it as a way to avoid dealing with her grief. She'd planned weddings and birthday parties and corporate events, creating joy for other people while feeling hollow inside. She tried to find information about Brielle over the years. Hired a private investigator with money she couldn't afford. Filed paperwork to request contact. Hit wall after wall. Closed adoptions were sealed tight. Nobody would tell her anything. After 5 years of searching, she'd finally given up, accepting that she'd never know what happened to her daughter. And now here was Brielle, 8 years old, happy and healthy, wearing expensive clothes and calling Terrell Daddy. All those years of grief and searching, when the answer had been right here in her hometown the whole time. Terrell had Brielle. He'd had her all along. The anger started to burn through the shock. Terrell's family had lied to her. They'd made her think she wasn't good enough, that Terrell didn't want her. They'd manipulated her into giving up her baby. And Terrell had let them. Or had he? Simone watched him across the gymnasium, watched the gentle way he adjusted Brielle's collar, the proud smile on his face as she showed him her coloring. He didn't look like a man who'd orchestrated her pain. He looked like a devoted father, completely focused on his daughter. What had really happened 8 years ago? And why had nobody told her the truth? She needed answers. And when this Father's Day event was over, she was going to get them. The first year after giving up Brielle had been about survival. Simone had moved through each day like a ghost, doing what needed to be done but feeling nothing. Her mother had worried constantly, trying to pull Simone back into the world with small acts of love. Cooking her favorite meals. Suggesting walks in the park. Bringing home job listings. "Baby, you have to keep living," her mother had said gently one evening 6 months after the birth. "I know it hurts. I know you feel like you lost everything. But you're still here. You still have a life ahead of you." "I gave away my child," Simone had whispered. "How do I live with that?" "By remembering why you did it," her mother had replied. "You thought you were giving her a better life. Maybe you were wrong. Maybe you weren't. But you can't change it now. All you can do is move forward. So Simone had tried. She'd gotten a job at a local hotel working the front desk. The pay was decent, the hours manageable. She'd enrolled in online classes, working toward finishing her degree. And slowly, painfully, she'd started to function again. But the grief never left. Every milestone she imagined Brielle reaching felt like a knife to the heart. First birthday. First words. First steps. Simone marked them all in a journal she kept hidden in her closet, writing letters to the daughter who would never read them. Dear Brielle, she'd written on what would have been her daughter's first birthday. You're 1 year old today. I wonder if you're walking yet. If you've said your first words. If you like chocolate cake. I hope whoever has you is celebrating today. I hope they're showing you how special you are. I hope they love you even half as much as I do. The letters had continued over the years. Simone wrote about her days, about things she saw that made her think of Brielle, about hopes and dreams for a child she'd never see again. It was the only way she could maintain some connection, some thread linking her to the baby she'd held for 3 hours. When Brielle would have been 2, Simone had hired a private investigator. She'd saved for 6 months to afford it, eating ramen and skipping meals to put money aside. The investigator had been sympathetic but ultimately unhelpful. Closed adoptions are sealed by law, he'd explained. Unless the child or the adoptive parents want to make contact, there's no legal way to get information. I'm sorry. Simone had tried anyway. She'd filed paperwork with the courts, requesting any information they could legally provide. She'd registered with reunion websites, hoping that maybe someday Brielle would search for her. She'd contacted the lawyers who'd handled the adoption, only to be told they couldn't share any information. Every path had led to a dead end. Every door had been firmly closed. After 3 years of searching, Simone had finally accepted that she'd never find Brielle. She tried to make peace with it, tried to believe that wherever Brielle was, she was happy and loved. By the time Brielle would have been 5, Simone had finished her degree and started her event planning business. She'd rented a small office space, printed business cards, built a website. The work had been her salvation, giving her a purpose beyond the grief that still haunted her quiet moments. Her first client had been a woman planning her daughter's 6th birthday party. Simone had smiled and nodded and created a perfect princess party, complete with a castle backdrop and tiara favors. Then she'd gone home and cried, thinking about the birthday party she'd never planned for Brielle. But she'd kept going. One event at a time. One client at a time. Slowly her business had grown. Her reputation for attention to detail and creative themes had spread. She'd gone from planning small birthday parties to organizing weddings, corporate events, charity galas. The money had improved. Her life had stabilized. On the outside, Simone had looked successful. A thriving business. A nice apartment. Good clothes. People who didn't know her story thought she had it all together. But inside the hole remained. Every child she saw, every little girl around Brielle's age made her wonder. Is that what my daughter looks like now? Does she have my eyes? My smile? The wondering had never stopped. Neither had the guilt. On hard days, Simone questioned everything. Had she really given Brielle up for her daughter's benefit, or had she just been too weak to fight? Should she have ignored the lawyers, kept her baby, found a way to make it work? Had Brielle's adoptive parents told her she was adopted? Did Brielle ever think about her birth mother? Did she wonder why she'd been given away? These thoughts had become Simone's constant companions. She'd learned to live with them the way you learn to live with chronic pain. It never fully goes away, but you adjust. You find ways to function around it. Last year, on what would have been Brielle's 7th birthday, Simone had finally started therapy. Her mother had suggested it multiple times, but Simone had resisted, thinking she could handle things on her own. But 7 years of unprocessed grief had started affecting everything. She'd panic when she saw little girls at the events she planned. She'd avoid the toy section in stores. She'd change the channel if commercials showed mothers and daughters together. The therapist had helped. Not to fix things, because some things can't be fixed, but to help Simone live with what had happened. To forgive herself for the choices she'd made as a scared 21-year-old. To accept that she'd done what she thought was best, even if it turned out to be wrong. You can't change the past, her therapist had said. You can only control how you move forward from here. Moving forward had meant accepting that she'd probably never see Brielle again. It had meant letting go of the fantasy reunion she'd imagined 1,000 times. It had meant making peace with being the mother who gave her child away, even though it went against every instinct she had. 3 months ago, Simone had finally put away the journal where she'd written letters to Brielle. Not because she'd stopped loving her daughter, but because she'd realized that holding on so tight was preventing her from living fully. She'd packed the journal in a box, along with the single photo she had from the hospital, and put it in the back of her closet. "I'm not forgetting you," she'd whispered to the box. "I'm just trying to survive." And she'd been surviving. Actually doing okay for the first time in 8 years. Her business had never been better. She'd even started dating again, nothing serious but at least letting people in. She'd begun to believe that maybe she could have a life beyond the grief, that maybe the hole in her heart would always be there but she could build around it. Then Principal Henderson had called 2 weeks ago, asking if Simone would be interested in planning the Father's Day event at Riverside Elementary. It was a good opportunity, a chance to work with the school district and potentially land more contracts. Simone had said yes without hesitation. She'd spent 2 weeks planning every detail. The decorations, the activities, the food, the seating chart. She'd wanted everything perfect the way she always did. Work had been her therapy, her escape, her purpose. Making other people's events special helped fill the void left by all the moments she'd missed with Brielle. Standing here now, clipboard in hand, watching Terrell and Brielle at their table, Simone realized how foolish she'd been. There was no moving forward. There was no healing. Because the wound had never really been about losing a baby to strangers who might love her. It had been about losing a baby to a system designed to keep Simone powerless. And now the truth was right in front of her. Terrell had Brielle. The man she'd loved had been raising their daughter all along, while Simone grieved and searched and slowly fell apart. The question was why? Why had his family lied? Why hadn't anyone told her? And most importantly, did Terrell even know what his family had done? Across the room, Brielle dropped a crayon and Terrell bent to pick it up for her, saying something that made her giggle. The sound of her daughter's laughter, a sound Simone had never heard before today, cut through her like a blade. 8 years. 8 years of searching for something that had been here all along. 8 years of grief that might have been prevented if someone had just told her the truth. Simone took a deep breath and straightened her shoulders. The event was starting soon. She had a job to do. But after this was over, after all the fathers and children went home happy, she and Terrell were going to have a conversation that was 8 years overdue. And this time, nobody was going to keep her from the truth. The Father's Day event passed in a blur. Simone went through the motions, welcoming guests, coordinating activities, making sure everything ran smoothly. But her eyes kept drifting back to Table 7, where Terrell sat with Brielle. She watched her daughter participate in the games, her face lighting up with joy when she won the 3-legged race with her father. She watched Terrell help Brielle make a handprint card, his large hands guiding her small ones. She watched them share a plate of cookies, Brielle stealing bites from Terrell's side when she thought he wasn't looking. They were comfortable together. Natural. The bond between them was obvious to anyone watching. Whatever else had happened, Terrell clearly loved their daughter deeply. That made the whole situation even more confusing. If Terrell loved Brielle this much, why had his family worked so hard to separate her from Simone? Why had they lied about Terrell being engaged to someone else? None of it made sense. As the event wound down, parents started gathering their things and heading out. Simone busied herself with cleanup, directing the cleanup crew, packing up leftover supplies. She was hyper-aware of Terrell still sitting at Table 7, Brielle on his lap now, her head against his chest as she showed him something on her phone. Finally, when most of the other families had left, Terrell stood up with Brielle in his arms. The little girl had fallen asleep, worn out from the afternoon's activities. He walked toward Simone with careful steps, trying not to wake her. "Simone," he said softly when he reached her. "Can we talk? I can put Brielle in the car, she'll sleep for a bit." Simone nodded, not trusting her voice. Her heart was hammering so hard she thought he must hear it. Terrell carried Brielle out to a sleek black car parked near the entrance. Simone watched through the gymnasium windows as he settled their daughter in the back seat, buckling her in with gentle care, adjusting a blanket around her. When he came back inside, his face was serious, his eyes filled with something that looked like pain. "I don't even know where to start," he said, running a hand over his face. "How about with why you lied to me?" Simone's voice came out harder than she intended. 8 years of grief had crystallized into anger now that Terrell was standing in front of her. "I never lied to you," Terrell said, his voice urgent. "Simone, I swear I never lied. I didn't know you were pregnant. I didn't know what my family did to you. I thought you left because you wanted to." "Your family said you were engaged to someone named Camila," Simone said. "They showed me pictures." "Camila Rodriguez," Terrell said bitterly. "My family's choice, not mine. They'd been trying to arrange a marriage since we were teenagers. I told them no 100 times. When I met you, I thought I'd finally gotten through to them. I thought they understood I was going to live my own life. They came to me twice, Simone said. The first time they told me you were getting married. That I was just a distraction. They had pictures, Terrell. You and her together looking happy. Family obligation photos, Terrell said. Charity events my parents forced me to attend with Camila, trying to push us together. I hated every minute of it. I was thinking about you the whole time. And the second time? Simone's voice cracked. When they found out I was pregnant? Terrell's face went pale. What did they do? They told me to give them the baby, Simone whispered. They said I wasn't good enough. That I'd never be able to provide the kind of life the child deserved. They said if I didn't sign the papers voluntarily, they'd take the baby through the courts and I'd end up with nothing. Oh God. Terrell looked like someone had punched him. Simone, I didn't know. I swear I didn't know about any of that. You didn't know your family was lying to your girlfriend? You didn't know I was pregnant? You didn't wonder where I went? The words came out harsh, fueled by years of pain. Of course I wondered, Terrell said. You disappeared. Stopped answering my calls. Changed your number. I came to your apartment and your mother said you'd moved away, that you didn't want to see me. I thought you'd realized I wasn't worth the complications that came with my family. I thought you'd chosen to leave. Simone stared at him. My mother never said that. She wouldn't have. She did, Terrell said. Maybe she thought she was protecting you. I don't know. But when I showed up at your door 3 weeks after that coffee shop meeting where you stood me up, your mother told me you were gone. She said you'd moved to another state, that you'd made it clear you wanted a fresh start without me. I never stood you up, Simone said slowly. I was there. Your family's lawyers were there instead of you. They told me you were engaged. Understanding dawned on both their faces at the same time. They'd been played. Manipulated. Kept apart by people who thought they knew better. My family, Terrell said, his voice filled with disgust. They orchestrated everything. Kept us away from each other. Lied to both of us. But Brielle, Simone said. I signed adoption papers. How did you end up with her? Because she's mine, Terrell said simply. The hospital called me when you went into labor. I didn't even know you'd been pregnant, didn't know about any of it. My mother told me you'd contacted the family, said you were pregnant and wanted money for an abortion. She said you'd signed away all rights and wanted nothing to do with the baby or me. That's not true, Simone said. None of that's true. I know that now, Terrell said. But at the time I was so angry. Hurt that you hadn't told me yourself, that you'd gone through my family instead of coming to me. But when I saw Brielle, when they put her in my arms, none of that mattered anymore. She was mine. My daughter. I told them I'd raise her myself. You've had her this whole time, Simone whispered. 8 years. I've been searching for 8 years, and you had her the whole time. I've been searching too, Terrell said. When Brielle was about 3, I started questioning the story my family told me. Things didn't add up. Why would you have gone through them instead of telling me directly? Why would you have wanted an abortion but then carried the pregnancy to term? I hired investigators to find you. They said you'd moved out of state, changed your name, disappeared completely. I thought you'd run away to avoid me. I never left, Simone said. I've been here the whole time. Working. Building my business. Trying to find my daughter. They stood in silence for a moment, the weight of 8 years of lies and manipulation settling around them. Simone felt tears building but refused to let them fall. Not yet. Not until she understood everything. Your family knew, she said. They knew the whole time where you were. They kept us apart on purpose. I cut them off 3 years ago, Terrell said. When Brielle started asking questions about her mother, I demanded answers. My father finally admitted they'd interfered. He tried to justify it, said they were protecting the family legacy, protecting me from making a mistake. I haven't spoken to any of them since. They made me give away my baby, Simone said, and now the tears did come. They made me believe I wasn't good enough. That you didn't want me. That Brielle would be better off without me. You were always good enough, Terrell said, stepping closer. You were everything. I loved you, Simone. I never stopped loving you. Don't, Simone said, taking a step back. Don't say that. We don't get to pick up where we left off. Too much has happened. I missed 8 years of my daughter's life. 8 years I can never get back. I know, Terrell said. And I'm sorry. I'm so sorry you went through that. If I'd known, if I'd had any idea what my family did to you, I would have found you. I would have brought you home. Simone wiped her eyes. I don't want apologies. I want to know my daughter. Then know her, Terrell said immediately. Please. Brielle deserves to know her mother. She asks about you sometimes, wonders where you are, why you left. I've never known what to tell her. What have you told her? Simone asked. The truth as far as I know it, Terrell said. That her mother loved her very much but circumstances separated us. That I've been looking for you. That I hoped someday we'd find you. And now you have, Simone said softly. And now I have, Terrell agreed. Simone, I know this is overwhelming. I know we have 8 years of pain between us. But Brielle is what matters now. Can we figure this out for her sake? Simone thought about the little girl sleeping in the car. Her daughter. The child she'd held for 3 hours and thought about every day since. The child who was happy and healthy and clearly loved. Could she really walk away again now that she knew the truth? I want to be part of her life, Simone said. I don't know what that looks like yet. But I need to know her. You will, Terrell promised. Whatever it takes, whatever you need. We'll figure it out together. Together. The word hung between them, loaded with possibility and pain. They weren't the young, hopeful couple they'd been 9 years ago. But they were Brielle's parents. That had to count for something. I should go, Simone said, suddenly exhausted. The emotional weight of the day was crushing down on her. Wait, Terrell said. He pulled out his phone. Give me your number. Please. Let's set up a time to talk more when Brielle's awake. She should meet you properly. Simone hesitated, then recited her number. Terrell typed it in, then immediately called it so she'd have his number too. Tomorrow? He asked. Can you come to dinner tomorrow? Just casual. Pizza or something. Brielle loves pizza. Simone thought about saying no, about asking for more time to process everything. But the thought of seeing Brielle again, of getting to know her daughter, made the decision easy. Okay, she agreed. Tomorrow. Thank you, Terrell said, and the relief in his voice was obvious. Thank you for giving us a chance. Simone didn't respond. She just watched as Terrell walked back to his car, watched him check on Brielle through the window, watched him drive away with their daughter. When they were out of sight, she sank down into one of the folding chairs and let herself finally feel everything she'd been holding back. 8 years. 8 years of grief and searching and thinking she'd never see her daughter again. And now, in the space of a single afternoon, everything had changed. Brielle was real, tangible, reachable. Not a fantasy or a memory, but a living, breathing little girl who deserved to know her mother. Simone pulled out her phone and called her own mother, the woman who'd supported her through the darkest days of her life. Mama, she said when her mother answered. You're never going to believe what just happened. And she told her everything. The next evening, Simone stood outside a beautiful home in one of the city's nicest neighborhoods, trying to calm her racing heart. The house was large but not ostentatious, with a well-maintained yard and children's toys visible through the front window. This was where Brielle lived. Where her daughter had grown up while Simone had been across town, completely unaware. She'd changed clothes 4 times before leaving her apartment, finally settling on a soft blue blouse and jeans. Casual but put together. She didn't want to look like she was trying too hard, but she also wanted to make a good impression. This was her daughter. Their first real meeting. Everything had to be perfect. Before she could second-guess herself again, the front door opened. Terrell stood there in jeans and a maroon t-shirt, looking more relaxed than he had at the school event. You came, he said, smiling. I said I would, Simone replied. I know. I wasn't sure. Come in. Simone stepped inside and was immediately struck by how much a home it was. Not a showpiece or a bachelor pad, but a real family home. Children's artwork covered the refrigerator. A basket of toys sat in the corner of the living room. Photos lined the hallway, most of them featuring Brielle at various ages. She's finishing her homework, Terrell said, leading Simone toward the kitchen. She knows you're coming. I told her you were the nice lady from the Father's Day event, that we're old friends and you'll be visiting sometimes. What exactly does she know about me? Simone asked. Not everything, Terrell admitted. She knows her mother and I were very young when she was born, that circumstances separated us. She knows I've been trying to find you. I thought we should tell her the rest together when the time is right. Before Simone could respond, footsteps thundered down the hallway and Brielle appeared, wearing purple pajama pants and a bright green t-shirt with a cartoon character on it. Miss Brooks, she said excitedly. Daddy said you're coming for pizza. We got pepperoni. Is that okay? We can get something else if you don't like pepperoni. Daddy says it's rude not to ask what guests like. The rush of words made Simone smile despite her nervousness. Pepperoni is perfect. That's actually my favorite. Mine too, Brielle said, moving closer. Do you like extra cheese? I always get extra cheese, but Daddy says it's too much cheese and nobody needs that much cheese, but I think you can never have too much cheese. Brielle, let Miss Brooks sit down first, Terrell said gently. They moved to the dining room where the table was already set with plates and napkins. The pizza boxes sat in the center along with a bowl of salad and pitcher of lemonade. It was simple and domestic and perfect. Can I sit next to Miss Brooks? Brielle asked. Of course, Simone said before Terrell could respond. Her heart swelled as Brielle pulled out the chair next to hers and climbed into it. They ate dinner and Simone tried to memorize every detail. The way Brielle picked pepperoni off her slice to eat separately first. The way she talked with her hands, animated and expressive. The way she leaned against Terrell occasionally, completely comfortable and secure. This was her daughter. Healthy. Happy. Love. So, Miss Brooks, Brielle said between bites of pizza, Daddy says you plan parties? Like birthday parties? That's right, Simone said. All kinds of events. Weddings, birthday parties, school events like the one yesterday. My birthday is in 3 months, Brielle said. I'll be 8. Can you plan my party? The question hit Simone like a physical force. Brielle's 8th birthday. Another milestone she'd missed 7 times before. The chance to finally be part of one felt overwhelming. I would love to, Simone said softly. What kind of party do you want? Brielle's face lit up. Really? You'll do it? I want an art party. Like painting and making stuff. Daddy tries, but he's not very good at art. One time we tried to make a volcano for my science project and it looked more like a blob. It was a very nice blob, Terrell defended, and Brielle giggled. Watching them together made Simone's heart ache. They had inside jokes. Shared history. Years of memories she wasn't part of. But instead of feeling bitter, she felt grateful. Grateful that Brielle had been loved so thoroughly. Grateful that Terrell had been there when Simone couldn't be. An art party sounds wonderful, Simone said. We can plan it together. You can tell me all your ideas. They spent the rest of dinner talking about party ideas. Brielle wanted painting stations and a clay sculpting area and maybe face painting if that was okay. She wanted bright colors and lots of sparkles. She wanted to invite her whole class plus her best friends from the neighborhood. That's a lot of kids, Terrell said mildly. It's my birthday, Daddy, Brielle said with 8-year-old logic. You said I could have a big party this year. I did say that, Terrell agreed, looking at Simone. Looks like you'll have your work cut out for you. I love a challenge, Simone said, and she meant it. Planning her daughter's birthday party felt like a gift, a chance to be part of something important. After dinner, Terrell suggested they watch a movie. Brielle picked an animated film about a girl who goes on an adventure to save her kingdom. They settled on the couch, Brielle between Simone and Terrell, and Simone tried to focus on the movie instead of the fact that she was sitting here with her daughter, sharing this ordinary, perfect moment. Halfway through the film, Brielle shifted closer to Simone, her head drooping with tiredness. Without thinking, Simone put her arm around Brielle, and the little girl snuggled closer. The feeling of her daughter's weight against her side, the warmth of her small body, the sound of her breathing, all of it felt surreal. Terrell caught her eye over Brielle's head, and the look he gave her was understanding and gentle. He knew what this meant to her. How much every small moment mattered. By the time the movie ended, Brielle was fully asleep. Terrell carefully picked her up, and Simone followed as he carried their daughter upstairs to her bedroom. The room was painted a soft lavender with white furniture and posters of artists and musicians on the walls. A bookshelf overflowed with books. A art desk in the corner was covered with supplies and half-finished projects. She loves to create, Terrell said quietly as he tucked Brielle into bed. Draws all the time. Says she wants to be an artist when she grows up. Simone looked at the artwork on the walls, the drawings and paintings clearly done by a child's hand but showing real talent and vision. Her daughter was an artist. Like Simone herself had wanted to be. She's amazing, Simone whispered. They left Brielle's room, Terrell pulling the door mostly closed, and went back downstairs. The house felt different now, quieter, more intimate with just the two of them. Thank you for tonight, Simone said. For letting me be here. You don't have to thank me, Terrell said. She's your daughter. You have every right to be here. Do I? Simone asked. I signed papers, Terrell. I gave her up. What if she doesn't want me once she knows the truth? She will, Terrell said with certainty. She's been wanting to know her mother her whole life. Simone, you're not some deadbeat who abandoned her kid. You were manipulated and lied to. You thought you were doing what was best for her. That's not something to be ashamed of. I missed so much, Simone said, feeling tears threaten again. First steps. First words. First days of school. I can't get those back. No, Terrell agreed. But you can be here for everything going forward. First art show. First school dance. High school graduation. College. Whatever she does, you can be there for it now. The promise of a future, of being part of Brielle's life, felt too big to hold. Simone had spent so long believing she'd never have this chance. I want that, she said softly. I want to be part of her life. But I don't know how to just jump into being a mother. She doesn't even know who I really am. We'll tell her, Terrell said. Soon. But maybe let's let her get used to you being around first? Let her see you as someone she trusts and cares about, then we'll explain everything. You think that's better than telling her right away? Simone asked. I think throwing all of this at an 8-year-old at once might be overwhelming, Terrell said. But we'll figure it out. Together. There was that word again. Together. Simone looked at Terrell, really looked at him. He'd aged, yes, but he was still handsome. Still the man she'd fallen in love with 9 years ago. She could see that young man in his face, the one who'd held her on fire escapes and promised her the world. But they weren't those people anymore. Life had changed them. Hurt them. Could they really build something together again? I should probably go, Simone said. It's getting late. Okay, Terrell said. But, Simone? Come back. Please. Come to dinner again tomorrow if you want. Or after school. Brielle has art club on Thursdays, maybe you could pick her up? Whatever works for you. Just be here. Be part of this. I will, Simone promised. I want to. At the door, Terrell hesitated, then said, I meant what I said yesterday. I never stopped loving you. I know we can't just pick up where we left off. But I want you to know that. Everything that happened, all the pain and loss, it never changed how I felt about you. Simone looked at him, saw the sincerity in his eyes, and felt something shift in her chest. She wasn't ready to say she loved him too. Too much had happened. But maybe someday they could find their way back to each other. Good night, Terrell, she said softly. Good night, Simone. She drove home in a daze, her mind full of the evening. Brielle's laughter. The feel of her daughter's head on her shoulder. The promise of being part of her life. It felt like a dream, like something too good to be real. But it was real. Her daughter was real. And Simone wasn't going to waste this second chance she'd been given. Over the next 2 weeks, Simone became a regular presence in Brielle's life. She came to dinner 3 times a week. She picked Brielle up from art club every Thursday. She spent Saturday mornings at the park with Brielle and Terrell, watching her daughter play and laugh and just be a kid. Every moment felt precious. Simone learned that Brielle loved strawberry ice cream but hated chocolate. That she was terrified of thunderstorms but fearless on the playground. That she could spend hours drawing and painting, lost in her own creative world. That she had her father's stubbornness but her mother's sensitivity to others' feelings. You're really good at art, Brielle said one afternoon when they were sitting at the kitchen table, working on designs for her birthday party invitations. Daddy said you wanted to be an artist when you were young. I did, Simone admitted. I still love creating things, but now I do it through planning events instead of painting. Why did you stop painting? Brielle asked, her head tilted in that way that was so familiar. Simone thought about how to answer. Sometimes life takes you in different directions than you planned. But that's okay. I get to help make other people's special days beautiful, which makes me happy. Like my birthday party? Brielle asked hopefully. Exactly like your birthday party, Simone confirmed. Brielle was quiet for a moment, coloring in one of the invitation designs. Then she said without looking up, Miss Brooks, are you going to keep visiting us? After my party? The question made Simone's heart clench. Do you want me to keep visiting? Yes, Brielle said immediately, looking up with those brown eyes so much like Simone's own. You're really nice. And you make my daddy smile more. He's been happier since you started coming over. I'm happier too, Simone said honestly. I love spending time with you, Brielle. Good, Brielle said, smiling. Because I like you. You're my favorite of all Daddy's friends. Later that evening, after Brielle had gone to bed, Simone and Terrell sat in the living room. This had become their routine. They'd spend time with Brielle, then after she went to sleep, they'd talk. Sometimes about the past, working through the pain and lies that had separated them. Sometimes about Brielle, sharing stories and making plans. Sometimes about nothing important, just easy conversation like old friends. She asked me today if I'd keep visiting after her birthday, Simone said. What did you tell her? Terrell asked. That I wanted to. But Terrell, we need to tell her the truth soon. It feels wrong letting her think I'm just your friend. She deserves to know who I really am. I know, Terrell agreed. I've been thinking about how to do it. Maybe after her birthday party? Let her have that first, something happy to remember before we explain everything? You think telling her I'm her mother won't be happy? Simone asked. I think it'll be complicated, Terrell said carefully. She'll be happy, yes, but she'll also have questions. Why weren't you there before? Why did you give her up? Those are hard things to explain to an 8-year-old. We tell her the truth, Simone said. That we loved each other, that we wanted her, but people lied to us and kept us apart. That we've both been trying to find each other. And if she's angry? Terrell asked. Kids process things differently than adults. She might feel abandoned even if that's not what happened. Then we help her work through it, Simone said firmly. Together. We don't keep lying to protect her from difficult emotions. We trust her to handle the truth, and we support her through whatever she feels about it. Terrell was quiet for a moment, then nodded. You're right. After her birthday, we'll sit down with her and explain everything. After her birthday, Simone agreed. They sat in comfortable silence for a while, both lost in their own thoughts. Simone looked around the room at the photos on the mantel, the toys tucked neatly in baskets, the general warm chaos of a home where a child was loved. This could be her home too if she wanted it. Terrell had hinted at it a few times, suggesting that Simone was welcome anytime, that she should feel free to treat this place as her own. But was she ready for that? To step fully into this life, into this family? I want to give you something, Terrell said, breaking the silence. He stood and walked to a bookshelf, pulling out a leather album. He sat back down beside Simone and opened it. Photos. Hundreds of photos of Brielle, from newborn to present day. Simone's breath caught as she looked at the first image, a tiny baby in a hospital blanket, eyes barely open. This is right after she was born, Terrell said softly. 2 hours old. She was so small, so perfect. I was terrified I'd break her. They went through the album slowly. First bath. First smile. First Christmas. First birthday. All the moments Simone had missed, documented and preserved. It hurt to see them, but it also helped. She could fill in the gaps, understand the child Brielle had been before becoming the girl she was now. I made copies for you, Terrell said, pulling out another album. Every photo I have of her. I thought you might want them. Simone took the album with shaking hands. Thank you, she whispered. This means everything. There are gaps, Terrell admitted. Times I forgot to take pictures, moments that got lost. But it's as complete as I could make it. They continued through the albums together, Terrell telling stories about each photo. The time Brielle dumped an entire container of glitter on herself. The day she started kindergarten and cried because she didn't want to leave him. The school play where she forgot her lines but improvised so well everyone thought it was part of the show. She's incredible, Simone said, wiping tears from her eyes. You've done an amazing job raising her, Terrell. I had help, Terrell said. My friend Juanita, she's been Brielle's nanny since she was 2. She's more like family than employee. And there's a whole network of people who love Brielle. Teachers, friends, neighbors. It takes a village, right? Right? Simone agreed. Then, hesitantly, she asked, have you dated since Brielle was born? I mean, it's none of my business, but... A few times, Terrell admitted. Nothing serious. Nobody I brought around Brielle. She's always been my priority. Plus, I guess I never found anyone who... He trailed off. Who what? Simone asked softly. Who made me feel like you did, Terrell finished. I tried to move on. Tried to find someone else. But nobody compared. Maybe I was holding on to the past, but I couldn't help it. Simone looked at him, saw the vulnerability in his face. I didn't date at all, she admitted. Couldn't bring myself to. It felt wrong being with someone when I was still grieving Brielle, still in love with you. The admission hung between them. Neither had moved on. Neither had really let go. 8 years, and they were still connected by the love they'd shared and the child they'd created. Simone, Terrell said quietly, I don't want to rush anything. I know we're still figuring things out. But I need you to know I want this. Not just for Brielle but for us. I want us to be a family. We are a family, Simone said. We have been since the day Brielle was conceived. We just got separated for a while. So what now? Terrell asked. Simone thought about it. What did she want? She wanted her daughter, obviously. Wanted to be part of Brielle's life in every way possible. But what about Terrell? Could she open her heart to him again, risk that kind of pain again? Looking at him now, at the man who'd raised their daughter with love and dedication, who'd searched for Simone even when he thought she'd abandoned them, who looked at her like she was still the most important person in his world. The answer felt clear. Now we take it one day at a time, Simone said. We focus on Brielle first. On being her parents, building that foundation. And we see where things go between us. I can work with that, Terrell said, smiling. They sat close on the couch, not quite touching but near enough to feel each other's warmth. Outside, night had fully fallen. Inside, the house was quiet except for the occasional creak of settling wood. Somewhere upstairs, their daughter slept peacefully. It wasn't perfect. There was still so much to work through, so many conversations to have, so much lost time to mourn. But for the first time in 8 years, Simone felt like she was exactly where she was supposed to be. 3 weeks after that first Father's Day event, Simone was back at Terrell's house almost every day. She'd rearranged her work schedule to accommodate more time with Brielle, taking morning meetings and planning sessions so her afternoons would be free. Her business was doing well enough that she could be selective about which events she took on. She'd just finished a meeting with a bride when her phone rang. Terrell's name flashed on the screen. Hey, she answered. What's up? Are you busy right now? Terrell asked. I have a proposition for you. What kind of proposition? The business kind, Terrell said. Can you come by? I want to show you something. An hour later, Simone walked into a beautiful office building in the downtown business district. Terrell met her in the lobby, looking professional in a navy suit but with his tie slightly loosened, like he'd been working for hours. This is my building, he explained as they rode the elevator up. Hayes Properties. I took over the company 5 years ago, after I cut ties with my family. Restructured everything, got rid of the people who were loyal to my parents, built something new. Impressive, Simone said, looking around at the modern, well-maintained building. They got off on the top floor and Terrell led her to a large corner office with floor-to-ceiling windows overlooking the city. The view was breathtaking. This is my office, Terrell said. But that's not what I wanted to show you. He led her through a side door to another office, slightly smaller but still spacious and bright. This space has been sitting empty for 6 months. I've been trying to decide what to do with it. Okay. Simone said, confused about where this was going. I want to offer it to you, Terrell said. For your business. Free rent for the first year, then we can negotiate something reasonable after that. You'd have your own space, room to grow, and you'd be right next door if Brielle ever needs you during the day. Simone stared at him. Terrell, that's too generous. It's not, he said firmly. You're building something amazing with your business. You deserve proper space to do it. And honestly, having you close by would be good for all of us. Brielle could come here after school sometimes, do homework in your office while we both wrap up work. It would give us more time together as a family. I can't just take free office space from you, Simone protested, even as part of her desperately wanted to say yes. What would people think? Who cares what people think? Terrell said. Simone, I have resources. A lot of them. Resources that should have been used to support you and Brielle years ago, but my family kept that from happening. Let me help now. Please. Simone walked around the empty office, imagining how it could look. Her desk by the window. A meeting table for clients. Shelves for all her event planning materials and samples. A separate space for her small team. It would be perfect. Why does this feel like charity? She asked quietly. Because you've been conditioned to believe you don't deserve help, Terrell said gently. But you do deserve it. You deserve success and support and every opportunity to build the life you want. Let me be part of making that happen. Simone turned to face him. And what do you get out of this? You, Terrell said simply. Near me. Say. Building something you're proud of without having to struggle the way you did before. Is that so wrong? Put like that, it didn't sound wrong at all. It sounded like exactly what Simone needed, even if her pride made it hard to accept. Okay, she said finally. But we do this right. You draw up a proper lease, something fair. I won't take free rent beyond the first 3 months. After that, I pay market rate. 6 months of free rent, Terrell countered. Then 75% of market rate. You can't negotiate if you won't accept the terms. Simone wanted to argue, but looking at Terrell's determined face, she knew it was pointless. He'd made up his mind to help her, and fighting it would only waste time and energy. Fine, she agreed. 6 months. But I'm paying my own utilities and insurance. Deal, Terrell said grinning. Want to see the rest of the building? He gave her a tour, showing her the conference rooms, the small gym in the basement, the break room stocked with coffee and snacks. The building was well maintained and professional, exactly the kind of place that would make her business look legitimate and successful to potential clients. When can I move in? Simone asked as they rode the elevator back down. Whenever you want, Terrell said. Tomorrow if you're ready. I'll have maintenance come in, make sure everything's perfect. Get you set up with keys and building access. Just say the word. Next week? Simone suggested. That'll give me time to tell my current landlord and arrange movers. Perfect, Terrell said. They walked out to the parking lot together, and Terrell hesitated before getting in his car. Simone, I know you think I'm doing this just to help you, and that's part of it. But I'm also being selfish. I like having you around. I like seeing you every day. Is that okay? Simone felt warmth spread through her chest. Yeah, she said softly. It's okay. I like seeing you every day too. The next few weeks passed in a blur of activity. Simone moved her business into the new office space, setting it up exactly how she'd always dreamed. Her team was thrilled with the upgrade, and clients were immediately impressed by the professional space. The move had been seamless, thanks in large part to Terrell's resources and connections. But the best part wasn't the office. It was the new routine they'd fallen into. Simone would work in her office during the day, often meeting with Terrell for lunch in his office or the building's small cafe. After school, Brielle would come to the building, bouncing between both offices, doing homework and chattering about her day. I feel like I have 2 offices now, Brielle announced one afternoon, spinning in Simone's desk chair. Daddy's is boring with all his business papers. Miss Brooks's office is much cooler with all the party decorations. Hey, my office is not boring, Terrell protested, but he was smiling. It's very boring, Brielle insisted. Miss Brooks has sparkles. The easy banter between them felt natural, like they'd been a family unit all along instead of just a few weeks. Simone caught herself thinking more and more about what it would be like if this became permanent. If she didn't have to leave at the end of each evening, if she could be there for bedtime stories and early morning breakfasts and all the small moments that made up a family's life. One evening, after Brielle had gone to bed, Simone and Terrell sat in his home office, working on plans for Brielle's upcoming birthday party. They'd spread papers and fabric samples across his desk, debating color schemes and activity stations. What about a mural project? Simone suggested. We could put up a huge canvas and let all the kids paint on it together. Brielle could keep it afterward. She'd love that, Terrell agreed. Maybe we could have local artists come, show the kids different techniques? As they talked, Simone felt Terrell's hand cover hers on the desk. She looked up, found him watching her with an expression that made her heart race. Thank you, he said quietly, for being here, for giving us this chance. I know it hasn't been easy. It's been the easiest thing I've ever done, Simone replied honestly. Being with Brielle, being with you. It feels right. Like this is where I always should have been. Move in with us, Terrell said suddenly. Not as, we can take things slow with us. But move in. Be here full time. Be Brielle's mom, not just a visitor. The offer was everything Simone wanted, but fear held her back. What if she doesn't want that? What if we tell her the truth and she's angry that I gave her up? Moving in before we tell her the truth feels like another lie. Then we tell her soon, Terrell said. This weekend. Before her birthday party. We sit her down, explain everything, and ask how she feels about you being here permanently. You really think she's ready for that? Simone asked. I think she's been ready, Terrell said. Have you noticed how she talks about you? Always asking when you're coming over, wanting you to be at every event. She already loves you, Simone. We just need to explain why. Simone thought about Brielle, about the little girl who'd somehow become the center of her entire world in just a few short weeks. The truth was scary. What if Brielle didn't understand? What if she resented Simone for giving her up, even though the circumstances hadn't been Simone's choice? But living with the half-truth was worse. Brielle deserved to know who Simone really was. And Simone deserved the chance to be fully her daughter's mother, not just Daddy's friend who came over a lot. Okay, Simone agreed. This weekend. We tell her everything. Saturday morning dawned bright and clear. Simone had barely slept the night before, running through the conversation with Brielle in her mind 1,000 times. How do you tell an 8-year-old that you're her mother? How do you explain giving her up without making it sound like abandonment? She arrived at Terrell's house at 10 as they'd planned. Brielle was in the backyard, painting at her outdoor art station, completely absorbed in her work. She looked up when Simone came outside and waved happily. Miss Brooks, come see what I'm painting. It's a sunset, but I made it purple and orange instead of the regular colors. Simone sat beside Brielle and admired the painting. It's beautiful. I love how you made it your own instead of copying what you've seen. Artists are supposed to see the world differently, Brielle said seriously. That's what my art teacher says. We're supposed to show people new ways of looking at things. Your art teacher is very smart, Simone said, her heart aching with love for this creative, thoughtful child. Terrell joined them in the backyard, carrying 3 glasses of lemonade. Brielle, can you take a break from painting? Miss Brooks and I want to talk to you about something important. Am I in trouble? Brielle asked immediately. No, sweetie, not at all, Simone assured her. We just need to have a grown-up conversation. They moved to the patio furniture, Brielle sitting between them. She looked nervous, her eyes darting between her father and Simone, trying to figure out what was happening. Brielle, Terrell started gently, what we're going to tell you might be confusing. But I want you to know that Miss Brooks and I both love you very much and nothing about that is going to change. Okay. Okay, Brielle said slowly. Simone took a deep breath. Brielle, do you remember how your daddy has told you about your mother? About how she wasn't able to be with you when you were born? Yes, Brielle said. Daddy said she loved me but something happened that kept her away. And that he's been looking for her. That's all true, Simone said. And the reason I'm here today is because I'm your mother, Brielle. I'm the one your daddy has been looking for. Brielle stared at her, processing this information. You're my mom? Yes, Simone said softly. I gave birth to you 8 years ago. I held you when you were just a few hours old. And I've thought about you every single day since then. But why weren't you here? Brielle asked, her voice small. If you're my mom, why did you leave? This was the hard part. Simone chose her words carefully. When you were born, your daddy and I were very young. We loved each other very much and we loved you even more. But your daddy's family didn't think I was good enough for him. They lied to both of us, told us things that weren't true to keep us apart. What kind of lies? Brielle asked. They told me your daddy didn't want me anymore, Simone said. They made me think you would have a better life if I wasn't part of it. I was young and scared and I believed them. So I signed papers that let your daddy take care of you, thinking I was doing what was best for you. And nobody told you that daddy wanted you to stay? Brielle asked. Nobody, Simone confirmed. Your daddy didn't even know I was pregnant until after you were born. His family kept that from him too. Brielle turned to Terrell. Grandma and Grandpa lied? Yes, Terrell said firmly. They lied to both of us. They thought they knew what was best, but they were wrong. Very wrong. And because of their lies, you didn't get to have your mother for 8 years. I'm sorry, Brielle. I'm so sorry we couldn't protect you from that. Brielle was quiet, looking down at her hands. Simone's heart hammered. Was Brielle angry? Confused? Did she understand? Are you mad at me? Brielle finally asked, looking up at Simone with tear-filled eyes. For not being there? The question broke Simone's heart. Oh, sweetheart, no. I'm not mad at you. You didn't do anything wrong. None of this is your fault. But you missed everything, Brielle said, tears starting to fall. My first day of school and my first time riding a bike and when I lost my first tooth. You weren't there for any of it. I know, Simone said, tears streaming down her own face now. And I hate that. I hate that I missed so much. But I'm here now. And if you'll let me, I want to be here for everything going forward. Like what? Brielle asked. Like your birthday party next month, Simone said. And the day you get your first day in school. And every art show you have. And teaching you to drive someday. And helping you pick out your prom dress. Everything, Brielle. I want to be there for all of it. Do you promise? Brielle asked. Do you promise you won't leave again? I promise, Simone said firmly. The only reason I left before was because people lied to me. Nobody's lying anymore. I know the truth now, and the truth is that I want to be your mother more than anything in the world. Brielle looked between Simone and Terrell. Can I call you Mom? Instead of Miss Brooks? The question made Simone's breath catch. If you want to. You can call me whatever feels right to you. I want to call you Mom, Brielle said. Then, hesitantly, can I hug you? Always, Simone said, opening her arms. Brielle launched herself at Simone, wrapping her small arms around Simone's neck. Simone held her daughter, really held her for the first time in 8 years, and felt something inside her finally click into place. This was her child. Her daughter. Her Brielle. I love you, Simone whispered into Brielle's hair. I've loved you from the moment I knew you existed. I will love you for the rest of my life. I love you too, Mom, Brielle whispered back. They stayed like that for a long time, holding each other while Terrell watched with tears in his own eyes. When they finally pulled apart, Brielle looked between her parents with a mixture of happiness and uncertainty. So what happens now? She asked. Are you moving in? Are you and Daddy getting married? Simone and Terrell exchanged glances. They hadn't discussed that part yet, at least not in concrete terms. Your mom and I are figuring things out, Terrell said carefully. We love each other and we both love you. But we want to take our time, do things right. But she's moving in, right? Brielle asked. She has to move in. Moms live with their kids. Would you want that? Simone asked. Me living here? Yes, Brielle said immediately. I want us to be a family. A real family. Simone looked at Terrell, saw the hope and love in his face. I think, she said slowly, that we can make that happen. If your dad is okay with it. More than okay, Terrell said. I want you here, Simone. I want us to be a family too. Then it's decided, Brielle announced with 8-year-old certainty. Mom's moving in. Can we go look at the room she'll have? Maybe we can paint it. Mom likes art, she should have a pretty room. The rest of the day passed in a blur of planning and excitement. Brielle dragged Simone through the house, showing her everything, explaining where things were and how things worked. She talked non-stop about all the things they'd do together now that Simone was her mom officially. We can bake cookies together, Brielle said. And you can help me with my art projects. And we can have girls' nights with movies and popcorn. Daddy always falls asleep during movies, so now I'll have someone to watch with. That evening, after Brielle had finally worn herself out and gone to bed, Simone and Terrell sat on the back patio, looking up at the stars. The night was peaceful, quiet except for the chirp of crickets. That went better than I expected, Terrell said. She's amazing, Simone replied. You raised an incredible kid. We're raising her now, Terrell corrected. Together. Together, Simone agreed. Then, more seriously, thank you for never giving up on finding me. For keeping my picture, my memory. For telling Brielle about me. I loved you, Terrell said simply. I never stopped. Even when I thought you'd left me, I couldn't let go completely. Some part of me always believed we'd find our way back to each other. We did, Simone said. Against all odds, through all the lies and pain, we found each other again. Terrell reached over and took her hand. I know we're taking things slow. But I need you to know my end goal. I want to marry you, Simone. I want us to be a family legally, officially. I want to spend the rest of my life with you and Brielle. Simone's heart swelled. I want that too. But let's do it right this time. Let's build our foundation first, make sure we're solid as a family before we make it legal. I can wait, Terrell said. I've waited 8 years. I can wait however long it takes. They sat in comfortable silence, hands intertwined, looking up at the stars. In the house behind them, their daughter slept peacefully. Tomorrow, Simone would start moving her things in. They'd begin the process of truly becoming a family, of building the life they should have had all along. It wasn't a perfect beginning. They still had challenges ahead. Simone would need to learn how to parent an 8-year-old. They'd need to figure out how to blend their lives completely. There would be disagreements and adjustments and growing pains. But they'd face it all together. With love and hope and kindness leading the way, just like it should have been from the start. The gymnasium at Riverside Elementary looked completely different from last year. Simone had gone all out for this Father's Day event, transforming the space with colorful decorations, activity stations, and a beautiful stage area where children could perform for their fathers. But this year she wasn't just the event planner. She was also a parent, standing beside Terrell as they waited for Brielle to perform in the talent show portion of the event. She's been practicing for weeks, Simone whispered to Terrell, squeezing his hand. She won't tell me what she's doing, says it's a surprise. She's been very secretive, Terrell agreed, smiling. But knowing our daughter, it'll be something creative and unexpected. Our daughter. The word still gave Simone a thrill. A year had passed since that first Father's Day when she'd frozen at the sight of Terrell and Brielle. A year of learning to be a mother, of building a life with the family she'd thought she'd lost forever. It hadn't been easy. There had been adjustments and arguments and moments where Simone had felt overwhelmed by suddenly being thrust into full-time motherhood. But with Terrell's support and Brielle's patience, they'd figured it out together. The talent show began and children took turns performing for their fathers. Some sang songs. Some told jokes. Some showed off sports skills or magic tricks. When it was Brielle's turn, she walked confidently onto the stage carrying a large covered canvas. Hi everyone, she said into the microphone, her voice clear and strong. My name is Brielle Hayes. For Father's Day last year I just had my dad. But this year I have both my parents here. So, I wanted to do something special for both of them. She pulled the cover off the canvas, revealing a beautiful painting. It showed 3 figures clearly meant to be Simone, Terrell, and Brielle standing together with their hands linked. The background was a swirl of colors, bright and hopeful. At the top, in careful lettering, it said, "My family." "I painted this to show what my life looks like now," Brielle continued. "A year ago I only had my dad and he was amazing. But something was missing. Then my mom came back and everything got better. Now I have both my parents and we're a real family." Simone felt tears streaming down her face. Beside her, Terrell's eyes were wet too. Their daughter stood on that stage, confident and happy, declaring her love for both of them in front of everyone. "I'm really lucky," Brielle said. "Because lots of kids only get to celebrate Father's Day or Mother's Day. But I get to celebrate both because both my parents are here and they both love me. So, this painting is for them to say thank you for being the best parents ever." The audience applauded as Brielle carefully carried her painting off the stage. She ran straight to Simone and Terrell, who both wrapped her in a hug. "That was beautiful, baby," Simone said, kissing Brielle's forehead. "You made us cry in front of everyone," Terrell added, but he was smiling. "Happy crying is okay," Brielle said wisely. "Mrs. Patterson says it means your heart is so full of love it has to leak out your eyes." After the talent show, families mingled, enjoying refreshments and activities. Simone found herself surrounded by other parents, many of whom remembered her as the event planner from last year. "I heard you're Brielle's mother," one woman said warmly. "What a wonderful reunion story. Your daughter has been telling everyone how happy she is that you're back in her life." "I'm happy too," Simone said simply. As the event wound down and families started leaving, Terrell pulled Simone aside to a quiet corner of the gymnasium. "I have something to ask you," he said, his expression serious but his eyes warm. "Actually, we both do." Brielle appeared beside them, grinning widely and holding a small box. "This was supposed to wait until later," she said. "But Daddy said I could give it to you now." Terrell took the box from Brielle and opened it, revealing a beautiful ring. Simple but elegant, with a single diamond that caught the light. He got down on one knee right there in the middle of the gymnasium with Brielle standing beside him. "Simone Brooks," he said, "a year ago you walked back into our lives and made us whole. You've been an incredible partner, an amazing mother to Brielle, and the love of my life. Will you marry me? Will you marry us?" Brielle added. "Because I helped pick the ring and I really want you to officially be part of our family forever." Simone looked at them, her two favorite people in the world, and felt her heart overflow. A year ago she'd been alone, grieving the child she thought she'd never see again. Now she had everything. A daughter. A partner. A family. "Yes," she said, laughing through her tears. "Yes, I'll marry you. Both of you." Terrell slipped the ring on her finger and stood, pulling her into a kiss while Brielle cheered and jumped up and down. The few remaining families in the gymnasium started clapping, having witnessed the proposal. As they walked out of the school together, a family now officially engaged to become one legally, Simone thought about the journey that had brought them here. The pain of separation. The years of searching. The moment of recognition that had changed everything. The slow rebuilding of trust and love. It had all led to this. To walking out of Riverside Elementary with her daughter's hand in one of hers and her fiancé's hand in the other, heading toward a future they'd build together. "Can we go get ice cream to celebrate?" Brielle asked. "Strawberry for me, vanilla for Dad, and chocolate for Mom?" "I thought you said I hated chocolate," Simone teased. "That was before I knew you were my mom," Brielle said seriously. "Moms always love chocolate. It's a rule." Terrell laughed. "I don't think that's actually a rule, but we can get ice cream anyway." They drove to Brielle's favorite ice cream shop, and as they sat outside eating their cones, Simone marveled at how normal this felt. How right. This was her life now. These were her people. This was her family. "When's the wedding?" Brielle asked, chocolate ice cream smeared on her chin. "We just got engaged 10 minutes ago," Terrell said. "Give us a little time to plan." "Can I help plan it?" Brielle asked Simone. "You're the best party planner ever, so our wedding should be amazing." "Of course you can help," Simone said. "It's your day too, really. The day we officially become a family." "We're already a family," Brielle said matter-of-factly. "The wedding just makes it official with papers and stuff." She was right. They were already a family. Had been from the moment Brielle was conceived, even if circumstances had separated them for years. The wedding would be a celebration of that, a public declaration of what they already knew in their hearts. Later that evening, after Brielle had gone to bed, Simone and Terrell sat in what had become their favorite spot on the back patio. Simone's engagement ring caught the moonlight, sparkling on her finger. "I can't believe a year ago I was terrified at the idea of walking into that gymnasium," Simone said. "I almost turned down the job. Thank God you didn't, Terrell said. Fate brought us back together. It wasn't just fate, Simone corrected. It was kindness and hope and love. Those things always find a way. Always, Terrell agreed. They sat in comfortable silence, the kind that only comes when two people are completely at ease with each other. Inside the house, their daughter slept peacefully, her painting for them propped against the wall where they could see it every day. A year ago, Simone had been an event planner with a hole in her heart. Now she was a mother, a partner, a fiancée. She was part of a family. She was home. The journey had been painful. The separation had cost them all years they could never get back. But in the end, love had won. Kindness had prevailed. Hope had led them through the darkness back to each other. And now, looking toward the future, Simone knew that whatever challenges came next, they would face them together. As a family. With Brielle's creativity and joy, with Terrell's strength and devotion, with Simone's determination and love. They had lost 8 years, but they had a lifetime ahead of them. And Simone intended to make every moment count. I love you, she whispered to Terrell. I love you too, he replied. Both of you. My whole world. Inside, Brielle stirred in her sleep, probably dreaming of ice cream and art and the family she told everyone about at school. The family that had finally, against all odds, found their way back to each other. The girl had brought her billionaire dad to Father's Day at school, and the event planner had frozen when she saw him. But that moment of shock had led to healing, to reunion, to a second chance at the life they should have had all along. And now, looking at the ring on her finger and the house full of love behind her, Simone knew without doubt that every painful step of the journey had been worth it. Because it had led her here. Home. Where she belonged.